The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dawn of Sports. I'm Dawn Mitchell. We have a great guest this week, and we are talking women's sports, but specifically a brand new genre when it comes to the Star Tribune, specifically covering women's sports. So this is just a fun time. We're talking to Cassidy Hettesheimer, who is here from Georgia for about 2 years, but now is going to be covering everything women's sports in the Twin Cities in Minnesota and beyond. And it's just going to be a joy to talk to her coming up.
Looking forward to this. Cassidy's one of my favorite colleagues at the Star Tribune. She's done a lot of things for the Star Tribune already, including contributing to Strib Varsity. Now she's going to be our dedicated women's sports reporter. We've wanted to do something like this for a while. Cassidy's the perfect person to do it. This is Dawn of Sports. Dawn, of course, anchor at Fox 9 and a host here at TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. The best way to listen to our shows is subscribe to your favorite podcast app when you find one you like. We have tons of good people, tons of good shows. Check it all out. Even doing some of our shows on YouTube these days. And we want to thank Aquarius Home Services. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio.
Well, Cassidy Hettesheimer, thanks for joining us here on the podcast. We're always saying people are getting their eyeballs more than ever on women's sports, and now they can read more than anything else as well. Thanks for joining us. I know you've been with the Star Tribune for about 2 years now, but to now be named specifically the one to cover women's sports, it's got to be, first of all, congrats, a feather in your cap, but just kind of a passion project and a joy for you as well.
Yeah, no, it's something that I'm super passionate about. Growing up as a female athlete, a young girl playing sports, and just, I would get the local paper from where I lived in the Metro Atlanta area and would open it up and look and see, where my soccer team was, and just always sort of engaging with sports media in that way. And then, now getting to kind of be someone who's making sure, first at the high school level for the past couple of years that, girls are being represented in our coverage, because there's so many talented young female athletes here in Minnesota. And then now obviously getting to move over into a role where I'm really going to get to tap into some of that interest that's just, been here in Minnesota and the Twin Cities, of course, for a long time, but just really surging now at the pro level with the WNBA and the PWHL and a whole bunch of other, emerging teams and sports and leagues. I know there's such a tradition of women's sports interest here in Minnesota. That was one of the things when I was figuring out where I would land as much as you can control kind of in this industry after I graduated. I wanted to be somewhere where people cared about that. And I knew there was a history of that at the Star Tribune. But, reporters, just, two off the top of my head that I've overlapped, but Rachel Blount and Ken Youngblood, who's covering the links, just people who had, have a long track record of making sure that coverage was in the paper and online and handling it with a lot of care. So I'm excited to get to be, I like to think of it as sort of a collaborative thing where, like, I won't be the only one getting to do this. Obviously, Jim and other columnists and other people on staff, but making sure nothing kind of falls through the cracks, hopefully. Yeah. That's my goal, and to really get to invest a lot of time into telling these stories and finding new ways to reach our audiences.
You bring up an excellent point. Yes, there's so many female athletes that come from here, but to have the support and to have the interest and now to have, like you said, your job is dedicated to doing that. And there's have been Jim's always covered that. There's people that have always covered the female sports, but to have a specific dedicated like section, like I love that. And for you being here in Minnesota the past couple of years, what have you learned in terms of the support? Yeah, we know that the Lynx always say that they have the best facilities and people always want to come here, or PWHL, wow, they had 10,000 fans the first year and look what they helped build. Was there anything that surprised you at all?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think obviously I knew sort of that appetite and that interest and that support was there coming in. And the track record, whether it's the Olympics or WNBA or, hockey players going pro, even before the PWHL was there. I got to like write a little intro piece for the Star Tribune about me and my approach on the new role, and the like weird sort of full circle connection I like pinpoint is that I went to middle school, like at the neighboring middle school that Maya Moore went to in the Metro Atlanta area. And so like, it was kind of funny. Like that was kind of when she was graduating from UConn and winning her first championships and stuff. And so like the paper was always kind of doing that, like, former Collins Hill grad, like does this cool thing. And so, kind of getting to see some of that from afar and then now getting to be a part of it. But I think that that's something that, I don't know, that community, that the way that sports like tie people to a community is something that always interested me in regards to storytelling and making people sort of feel those connections even stronger. And even just being in Minnesota, like it's easy to see how much pride people take in their teams and in the people that come from here. And so I think that, when there is that history of excellence, it only like compounds it and makes people sort of more proud of that. And so, no, it's been super cool. I don't know if like surprising would maybe be the word I use, but just to like get to see it firsthand and kind of immerse myself in it the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, if anything, Minnesotans don't let their people go, like they'd be like, he's one of us, native Minnesotan, Roseville zone or, Hutchinson zone. So they'll always bring that back to the core. Like these are our people. And you grew up playing sports, so you know what that feeling is like. What did you learn maybe from your days of playing sports that has really kind of helped you? I always say that when women play sports, it helps you in business, but also it taught me how to win successfully, but also with humility. It taught me how to lose. It taught me how to be a teammate. And I always like the term, leave it on the field. Like sometimes you could be in the thick of it, especially in our business of deadlines and stress. And then you just kind of leave it on the field. What perhaps like set you up the best to do what you're doing now from playing sports?
Yeah. So growing up, I was a goalkeeper mostly in soccer. I have been about the height I am now, which is like 5'6", since I was like in 5th grade. So people were really excited at first. I was very tall. I was kind of the back row of all my class photos. And then that evened out, which was sort of expected. No one in my family is super tall. But no, I just picked that up and stuck with it. So, I mean, that in particular, I think, man, that was sort of fortifying. Short-term memory, calm under pressure. Obviously, when you have to apply that to sort of what I do now, and you get feedback and when things don't go right, you obviously want to learn from it and don't want to forget it entirely. But like we're in a very fast-paced environment, like you said, you have to be able to kind of move on to the next thing and stay calm under pressure. And then I think, yeah, like you said, just like the teamwork aspect of this, like, sports coverage in, community is sort of something that like, to me is like holistic. And, I spent the past 2 years on a team that has been growing at the Star Tribune with our Strib varsity expansion. And then now I get to work with different people in different capacity. And so I think that, like I alluded to before, I think that women's sports coverage, the more hands that are in it, the better. Even if that's sort of my title, like other people, it benefits from having other people who are invested in it and participating in it. And so I think yeah, just that teamwork aspect too is a real big thing that sports teaches you.
What I really enjoy about your work, I love finding out how people tick. And you like to find out what is the story about these athletes. Like we can all, of course, we go to newspapers and journalism to find out what happened in the game, like, what the facts are. But to get like what makes this athlete tick or give me more about them. That's always what I dig for. And I really appreciate that about your writing. What really kind of energizes you the most? What would you say is your style?
That's a good question too. I think for me, like okay, I'll pinpoint a couple examples of things I've worked on, not necessarily my new role, but in, maybe at the Star Tribune. And one was, I guess two of them involved some driving up north, but one was going up to Staples, Minnesota to write about a student athlete he's a senior this year. His name's Turner Beachy, and he's a pole vaulting wrestler, football player, rodeo cowboy, and performs, like, he sings as well. And wow. I don't know, I think that there's something that's like not everything that athletes do, but a lot of what athletes do is sort of like intentionally public, right? Like whether you're at the high school level and like you're going out into your community and you're competing, or you're professional and you're doing it on TV in front of millions of people. It's like, that's very much like sort of a performance. And then, so to me, it's sort of like when we have access to these athletes, it's like, so what aren't people seeing, I guess, to me is sort of like the interesting thing. And so like, sometimes that means like finding out other things they do, sort of this like multi-hyphenate, like way of doing things. And what aspects of their life sort of impact the way they approach sports. And then I think, getting to tell the stories of, like, we see lots of stories of like winners and that's super cool, but also getting to know that like sports is more than that, and it's more than just like the score sheet. Like I've gotten to tell some stories about some student athletes and athletes in general, like outside of just the high school's coverage, of who aren't necessarily on winning teams and aren't state championships, but they have, unique story, whether it's records they're breaking, or we went up to International Falls and did a story on sort of the way, how far apart some of these girls that are on their hockey team are driving to compete, because there aren't a ton of teams up there. So I don't know. I just think, to me, like things like that, the way that athletes' lives influence their sports and kind of vice versa, is like something that's interesting to me and makes it more relatable, right? For people that aren't pro athletes.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth covering high school sports in Dallas. And the hard thing about covering high school sports is there are a million stories. The great thing about covering high school sports is there are a million stories. Yeah. But you got to hustle to get them. And Cassie's been doing that. She'll bring that energy to women's sports coverage too. Want to thank Aquarius Home Services. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Also want to remind you, you're listening to TalkNorth.com. We have the best sports lineup in town. Dawn, Russo, Krasinski, Lavelle, Royce Smalley, Mark Rosen, Jeff Diamond, Kevin Gorg, on, plus outdoor content if that interests you. So check out TalkNorth.com when you find a show you like. Subscribe to it, including this one. Back to Dawn.
All right, before we get into some specifics of what you have been covering, you said off the top, what I really like is the investment that has been made more in women's sports, and specifically here in Minnesota. It just must make you so proud to be like, all right, look at this time that we are in terms of women's sports. We joked around about their sweatshirts. Everybody watches women's sports. It's not just women wearing it; it's men wearing it. It's the proud girl dads that are supporting their daughter athletes, like openly and getting involved. But here in Minnesota, the money is where the mouth is too, and now we've seen New York City sell out Madison Square Garden, or Boston sell out the Fleet Center when it comes to PWHL. But here in Minnesota, what do you love specifically about the investment that you have noticed over the past few years?
I think that the cool thing, that I've just from being someone who's relatively new to Minnesota, is, well, one, how like eager people are to share that and to like bring people into the fold and, you know, make new fans. But also I think that there isn't sort of this easy narrative that people just like jump onto of like, oh, this is a new thing. This is something that's just happened in the past couple years. I think people here are good at sort of contextualizing that this rise has been something that people have worked for a long time and put a lot of effort into, you know, increasing support of, even if there's sort of exponential growth in recent years. This isn't in Minnesota specifically, but I remember, you know, I interned out in Washington State for a summer and did a project on, it was the summer of the Title IX's 50th anniversary, and did some stories kind of cataloging that. And obviously these are people who have much more life experience than I do, and sort of historical context for things. And so I'm sort of learning and absorbing a ton during that process. And, you know, coaches talking about when they were like, couldn't get buses for their teams. And, you know, so I think that there's a lot of richness in sort of that, knowing how much has gone into where we're at now with things. And, you know, even I remember like when I was sort of first engaging with and interacting with like women's sports media was, you know, watching like the U.S. women's soccer team and then NWSL. And I had, you know, it was all like streamed on YouTube, and I'm like sitting in my room watching it, and, you know, to see the media deals and stuff that have come of it, you know, it's not something that's happened overnight. And I think that Minnesota is sort of a testament to that in a lot of ways.
You know, you get elevated to this new role, and it is not a quiet time. Like, you've been thrown in the deep end. So just so everyone knows listening, like tonight is the WNBA draft. The Lynx have been busy signing all these free agents, saying goodbye to some other free agents, you know, making sure they keep like Nafisa, get this. And then I think they've signed McBride, Williams, Howard, Coffey just yesterday or the other day. They got the second overall pick. I mean, and then you look at the Frost, and they're ending the regular season coming up and going to the postseason. We're just coming up a crazy college basketball. When did you have a chance to take a breath, and how has this recent stretch been for you? Like, okay, here's Cassidy, and she's busy.
Yeah, no, taking a breath, sort of TBD. I got to go the weeks between the girls basketball and boys basketball state tournaments, which there was this year because the Gophers were hosting March Madness. The Gophers women, but I got to go to go to Connecticut and New York and see a friend. That was fun. But no, and for real, like it's sort of been go since, you know, hockey tournament started in February, and then shifting into this new role. But no, I think there's nothing sort of like just kind of getting to hit the ground running, and it sort of like, to me, like chasing stories just creates new ideas and new, you know, awareness of trends and issues and things to kind of look into as things, you know, pick up. And also, like, even if I haven't been necessarily in this role like the past 2 years, I definitely like have stayed engaged with this stuff and like got to help cover the WNBA playoffs last year and jump in on some stuff during the season and just sort of engage with stuff that way. And so it's satisfying, I guess, to kind of get to like get the ball rolling and just get started.
But now you can have kind of this ownership role too of the women's sports scene in terms of writing that stuff. That has to be kind of a cool thing for you.
Yeah, ownership is like kind of a scary word a little, you know, but no, I know that like I do feel responsible, and it's something I do take personally, but then also I think, like I said before, like I want to kind of think, well, like, you know, this is week 2 on the job, I guess. So maybe check with me in a year and my opinions and sort of like how I'll approach it and what the best way will work. Maybe it'll change, but sort of like, again, like I said, like making sure nothing slips between the cracks, or a running point, I guess, to kind of figure out like, where am I going to best spend my time, and, who can I bring in, whether it's like, other people on the sports desk or people on design or other areas of the newsroom that like really do care about this stuff. And yeah, just making sure that there's sort of that the coverage is getting its due.
So let's get to know you a little bit better. So away from writing, away from sports, because sometimes, we all need a break. Tell us, like, not to speak of you in the third person, tell us what Cassidy likes to do in your spare time. If you have a day off and someone says, I do not want to do anything sports, like what would be like, yes, this is what I love to do?
Well, I love to run and hike and spend time outside, which I've loved about Minnesota. Like all the trails and stuff in Minneapolis. I'm so close. I'm close to the like chain of lakes, to the Mississippi River. It's been awesome. I have been like, I did run a lot outdoors this winter, which was
you did,
yeah, and last winter.
Very brave, very brave.
I don't know. I did more than I thought. I definitely like my apartment has an indoor gym. There's a treadmill. Like I do that when I have to, but I don't know. Like just got the balaclava on and the gloves and kind of get out there. But no, and then just like. I last year got to do some national parks and stuff with some hiking and camping. That was super fun. I still play soccer at my Tuesday night soccer league. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I kind of the things that got me into sports journalism in the first place. I like to read and watch sports, and which is sometimes hard to unplug a little bit. If you're going from covering it to watching it, but that's still a big part of my routine. But yeah, that's kind of me outside of sports. I did the Twin Cities marathon for the first time.
You did? How did you do?
Terrible. Like way slower than I was proud of myself just for finishing, but like the time I had to pick for my like projected time for my like bib and where I would start my corral number, I like way overestimated myself. But I did it, and that was like all that I cared about.
I'm proud of myself for not even trying.
But Jim, you're a runner too. I'm surprised.
I was a runner in high school, and that was enough.
I was on the track team in high school too. Actually, I was one of the captains. Mm-hmm. But if you want me to go running now, I mean, a couple of years ago, Jim knows this. I fractured my leg and tore my meniscus running because I wanted to up my running. So I ended up getting a stress fracture, and I'm like, so I did the rehab to come back. And finally I said to my physical therapist, I'm like, well, what if I don't want to run anymore? He goes, I had you on a back to running program. I'm like, yeah, I just might be done.
You did all the hard part, but no.
I'm done.
I'm done. So Cassidy, you're taking the torch and running with it. So
oh gosh, we'll see.
Oh,
we'll see. I was never a runner in high school. I did cross country for 1 year because my older brother was a captain and was like, you have to do it. And it was just a lot with like club soccer and everything. And I was no good. I'm not fast. It's more of a like show up, get outside, get myself moving, like that sort of thing. I'm not winning any age group like prizes or anything.
I did the 800 meters, which we called the 880 back in the olden days, and the mile relay. And we'd have to do the long trips, like our coach would make us go on the road and do 5 miles. Mm-hmm. You probably don't know who this woman is, but being from Boston, Rosie Ruiz is famous. You might want to Google her. She is the one that she cheated. And one of the reasons why they put the chips in your sneakers and stuff like that. So she cheated, took the T, and won the Boston Marathon. And then they find out later that she really didn't. The one time, because I'm a rule follower, I cheated and had my friends pick me up and drive me, and we just waited at her house, and then I pretended to run in. I got found out by my coach. Not a good thing for the captain. I'm like, and so he called me Rosie the rest of the way.
Oh,
Okay,
no.
Rosie. Yeah, Rosie Ruiz did. I am not a distance runner. That's why I hail you and Jim for the times that you like to do that. I just stuck to the short spurts. Short spurts. That's it. And that's what my running days are done. So you like the trails though now, right? Like when you go out and you run in Minnesota, you don't like, you can do a track every once in a while, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, I love like I love all the trails like in the cities here. And that fits. I like, slow and steady. I say I'm a one speed bike, like one gear.
Yep.
Yeah, no, so sprinting. It's just one gear.
So if you had to pick one athlete, well, I'll do athlete and then I'll do a person in your life who have been kind of been an inspiration for you. And I hate to say, oh, this is who I want to model my life after, because I think, you might want to get a Mia Hamm if you were growing up, a certain time in soccer, or there's so many women now that people say, oh, I want to be like. But sometimes, like when you were growing up in Atlanta, was there an athlete that inspired you, male or female, or like a family member?
Yeah, I'll get, this will come full circle. Like I'll sort of contextualize this story a little. So I guess I went to UGA and we had a pretty awesome like sports media program that I was really fortunate to like be in state for and to have that sort of set up, and professors who were really experienced, very hands-on, and you would like sit in class and kind of listen to people like talk about what they wanted to do, and people would be like, I want to be an NFL reporter, like I want to be an MLB reporter, and I loved all of those things and like liked sort of sports for the sake of sports, not like specifically necessarily like one thing or another. But I never really like, when people would ask like, well, like, what do you want to do? I was kind of like, I don't know, like none of those really call out to me. And I even then, like in the early years in school, didn't necessarily think that like being like a women's sports reporter, whether it's like in general or like one specific thing, like WNBA, or, there were a couple like NWSL reporters that I followed, places like The Athletic or ESPN. But a lot of those people got their start sort of just like on blogging sites or sites they created, like paying their own way to places. But then, so in okay, this is really long-winded, I promise. Okay. In 2015.
No, it's good. It's good.
In 2015, the Women's World Cup was in Canada. Yep. And that was sort of in my peak of like following, like, not peak, but like that was when I was like really into like the US team and like following all that stuff. And I like printed, like we were always like, let's drive down to the Panhandle in Florida. And like, that's our summer vacation. And we would like spend, a week or not, however long, a weekend or whatever, down there kind of on the Gulf, North Gulf coast. And we never had like flown anywhere or been out of the country. And I like printed out to my parents this like packet of information about ticketing, like for the Women's World Cup. And was like, we should go to Canada. And like, I had this whole like itinerary written out. And I remember kind of being like, I don't know if they're going to like agree to this, but then they were kind of like, sure, why not? And so we went to Vancouver and saw the US play Nigeria there in a group stage game. And so I remember like 2019 came, and that was like in France, and watching that. And I remember being like, going into college, being like, I really want to be at the 2023 Women's World Cup, like in Australia and New Zealand, whether it's like as a spectator, hopefully in some sort of media like coverage capacity. And I like had applied for all these like experiential learning scholarships just to kind of like try to make that possible. And the sports media program at UGA, we were kind of coming out of the COVID-19, like the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when I started school. And so they normally had these like experiential trips where they would take students to like the Paralympics, or now they're doing like March Madness regional weekends for this sort of hands-on experience where they would sort of string for like the AP or USA Today. And this professor, her name's Vicky Michaelis. I don't know if Jim, if you ever crossed paths with Olympic stuff, maybe, I don't know if the timing would have worked out that way, but she covered for USA Today. Anyway, so she was the head of our sports media department, and she knew like how much I was like into soccer and covering this. And she was like, heads up, like the 2023 trip that we're going to do, we're going to get back into it coming out of COVID, is going to be the Women's World Cup, and you'll have to apply for it and like try out for it. And I was like, I'm going to be on that plane. I'm going to be on that plane, like no matter what. So like I tried out like writing, I was, photography, like I was like anything that's going to get me on there. And so I like am part of this group that's going there for the US or for UGA, sorry. And I mean, that was just like an amazing experience. And I think really opened my eyes to like, there are people whose jobs are dedicated to this. Okay. Yeah. And now I'll get around to the athlete thing. I think now that we're in a coverage, like working as a capacity as a journalist, right? Like relationship with like teams and athletes is very different. And it's like, these are just people, and like, you're both kind of working, you're both, here to sort of fulfill like this part of your job. But it was a press conference, I think after either it was before we were in Melbourne, we were based in Melbourne. And so we covered like 6 or 7 games that were in there, and Brazil came to play there. And I can't remember if it was before the game, and they had lost, or after, and they like hadn't qualified through. But I remember sitting in this press conference, and Marta, the Brazilian national women's soccer team, is like, I think she has like 5, sort of like International Player of the Year awards, and just like one of the most accomplished women's soccer players. Like took multiple minutes just to talk about like where she was when she started and like the media coverage. And then there were like, it was just like this packed room, because I think it could have been like her last sort of media appearance at like a World Cup. Time will tell. I think she retired and maybe has unretired since, and they've got the next one in 2027. So, but like that really stuck with me. I think like that experience, and like that, there's videos that went viral sort of in that community about like, look at like this thing that, this impassioned sort of, press conference that she gave. And so, I don't know, like I've obviously like growing up playing soccer, like watching her, like I was never a high scoring midfielder or forward, at all. But like, just being there in that room for that, like, I think kind of was like the cherry on top of that whole experience that kind of made me realize like, this is a real possibility for like work. Like there's places that I can do this for a full-time job, hopefully. Okay.
Well, I wish people could see your face right now, because this is why I love, this is why I'm so glad that we have you on to talk to you, because you lit up like a Christmas tree talking about it. Like, I'm going to be on that plane. I'm going to do that, and that's where it makes me so happy as a woman who's been doing sports for a long, long time, that when I see a fellow woman finding her joy in her job and in sports. So I'm just telling you, people can hear it in your voice right now, but I wish they could see your face, that this is what it's all about. And I just A, want to thank you for having that persistence. B, your family, like, sure, let's go to Vancouver or wherever, like, let's go to Canada. Well, we'll go to the Panama, we'll go wherever you want. And then your tenacity to be like, I don't care if I have to do photography. Like, heck, you probably would have said, I'll be an attendant on the plane. Like, just get me on that plane. I will be there in any capacity. That just tells me, A, you're on the right path. And B, you were born to do this. And anyone who has a chance to read your stuff, and I'm looking forward to more, obviously, because you're just scratching the surface now that you're, on the Women's Avenue full time. I just want to thank you and just congratulate you, because you're where you're meant to be. Don't you feel that?
Yeah, I really hope so. I think like I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Obviously, like it's cool to be in this role, but like to me, like being in it is the point, right? Is like to do the work and to feel like I'm doing a good job at it. And like, I mean, even just when you were mentioning, like kind of recapping my long-winded answer to the question of like, I'm very lucky to have like family who's supportive of those things, and opportunities through school and professors. And, I think I probably took up time for kind of answered both questions of when you were saying athlete or, person in my life, who's sort of impacted me. But like, yeah, it's one of those things that you don't get there alone. And then once you're in the role, you don't do it alone either. You've got editors and teammates and lots of people you work with, and of course all the people you interview and rely on as sources. Yeah, it's a very collaborative workspace. You guys know that, and I'm very excited to do the work. It's not just like something I am. It's something I'll do. So I'm excited to do that thing.
Well, I know it's very trendy for people nowadays to say, I found my why, but I feel like you found your why and you love it. And you're bringing that passion to it. So we're very appreciative, because I know that you're going to hit the draft, and then you're going to hit the training camp, and then you're going to hit postseason like you're going to be going Mach 2 with your hair on fire. So Cassidy, thank you. First of all, thank you for your talent and your joy, but also thank you for your time, because your life, I like to say, is in a blender on high with the lid off right now. And I'm enjoying it all. So thank you.
Yeah. Try and get that lid on.
Get that lid on, girl. Not too much. Life is in the mess. Life is in the mess. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks to Dawn. Thanks to Cassidy. We'll talk to you next week.